Does your schedule make it feel impossible to lose weight and actually keep it off? If so, you've clicked on the right video, because today we're going to talk about how to lose weight and keep it off with a busy schedule. Now, for context, if you don't know who I am, my name's Yochheim. I'm the co-owner of defaultkings.com. We're an online men's fitness coaching company. We work specifically with Christian business owners and professionals to help them lose anywhere from 10 to 50 pounds or more and actually keep it off long term. So when it comes to helping busy people lose weight, I tend to know a thing or two. Since 2019, we've helped over 700 men lose weight and keep it off long term. So with that experience in mind and with that context laid, let's get into the content of the video. And I'm going to make 5 big points, and I'm going to try my best to run through them rapid fire because they're all deep rabbit holes that we could dive into. And I want to keep it brief for you guys because it really isn't that complex. It's pretty simple. Right now, before I get into those 5 points, I want to help you guys just shift your mindset a bit with this idea of having time to work out. Because the reality is, you do. We are all allocated the same amount of hours in a day. It's 24 hours. Right? So you, me, Jeff Bezos, we all have 24 hours, right? And Jeff Bezos, who has more responsibilities than you and I both, unless you're, of course, Jeff Bezos watching this, which if you are, that's awesome. What's up, man? But in all seriousness, again, we all have the same time, and he's jacked, right? And he's in his 60s, right? So my audience is generally younger than 60, but if you're a guy in your 60s watching this, kudos to you, right? But again, he's probably older than you, probably has more responsibilities than you, but guess what? We have the same time, and he looks better than you, if you're watching this, most likely, right? And that's not shame, and that's not me being mean. That's just me being real, right? It's me being honest about the situation. So you do have the time if you care enough to make it. Now, 2 questions or thought experiments that have helped guys get into a state of being like, oh crap, I do actually need to dedicate time to this, are ones that I'm going to go over right now. So one is, hey, what is it about where you are right now that sucks so bad that it's worth blocking off time to change it? Is it low drive? Is it low energy? Is it fatigue? You can't play with your kids? Right? Is it impacting your marriage? Is it impacting your business? Really think about where you're struggling right now and consider if your health is having an impact on it, because chances are it is. Chances are it is. So that's point number 1. Right? Point number 2, if you can't think through that lens and find an answer, you can look through a more positive, longer-term lens of, hey, what is it about where you want to be with your weight and with your health that makes it worth getting there? What would change? How would things improve? If you're 285 pounds right now, how much better would you perform in your business, in your marriage, as a father, if you were 200 pounds? How much better would it be? How much more energy would you have? How much better would you show up? How much more confidence would you have? Think about that. And those 2 questions typically can get you thinking along the lines of like, oh crap, I do need to actually just block off time for this. Okay, so have the mindset shift of you do have time, you just have to care enough. And if you go through those 2 thought experiments and in your mind you feel like, well, I still don't have enough time to make it worth it, then the unfortunate reality is you're probably just not at rock bottom yet. And that's unfortunate to hear, but some of you might be in that spot where you just need to wait 6 more months or a year or 5 more years and come back and watch this video when unfortunately you've gotten to a point where it's so bad that you can't tolerate it and you need to change. Right? So that's the precedent that I want to set before we get into this. Now that we've actually gotten you to that mindset state of, hey, okay, I do have time. This is why I need to change. This is what sucks right now, and this is what's going to be better about where I'm going. Let's talk about tactics. Right? So there's 5 points I want to make. Now, before I get into them, I want to make a note. The first 2 are pretty extreme. Right? It's me swinging the pendulum very hard and saying, what if we had to add 0 time to your calendar? Nothing changes about your time commitment to this right now at all. That's what these first 2 points are. Okay. And point number 1 is stop thinking that you have to exercise. The goal of the video here, lose weight with a busy schedule. To just lose weight, you do not need to exercise. Okay. Now that might sound crazy. And of course, I'm not recommending that because you could, you should, and you'd see better, faster, and more sustainable results if you did. But just to see the number on the scale drop, you do not have to exercise. That can just be a diet thing. So again, if we swing the pendulum very hard to the extreme of how do we do it by adding 0 minutes to your calendar, it would just be through diet. Stop thinking you have to exercise. Don't even block off time for exercising. You're already blocking off time for food. And the unfortunate reality, the harsh reality, is if you're watching this and you're overweight, we're probably blocking off too much time for food, right? We're overeating. That's how we got to the point where we're overweight. So you definitely have the time to eat, right? And all we need to do is dial in the diet and just get you into a calorie deficit. The only way to get into a calorie deficit is by moving more, eating less. We're just removing the moving more component or the burning more calories component. Just consume less calories. It's number one. Consume less calories. Right? Number two, again, adding 0 minutes to your calendar is increasing your protein intake. So this is just changing what those meals actually look like. We've decreased the calorie total, and now we've also increased the protein total. This does not take you more time to cook. It doesn't. Right? If anything, you're going to get time back because there's so many protein supplements available. You can do shakes, you can do bars. Those are generally pre-made, and if they're not, it requires you putting a scoop into a shaker bottle and going like this and walking out the door. Right? So it's not adding time to the meal prep. Right? Also, protein has more leptin, which means you're going to feel more full, which means in general, if you feel more full because you consumed your protein, you're probably not going to consume as many calories throughout the day because you don't have those little hankerings for snacks or things like that, and you don't over-consume calories in that meal that you're eating. Right? Additionally, with point number two, protein has the highest thermic effect of food, which just means your body burns more calories by breaking down protein than it does by breaking down carbs and fats. So you're just getting bonus calories burned. Right? So the first two, again, those require you adding 0 time to the calendar. You're already eating. Again, we've already established that we're probably actually eating too much. So we've dedicated the time to food. That's just changing the way you eat. Adds no time to your calendar. Okay. Points 3, 4, and 5 have to do with training, right? So if you're already training, this is going to help you spend less time training. If you're not training, this is going to help you add training to your calendar without adding 2 hours a day in the gym. So point number 3, do less cardio, do more resistance training. Cardio is what's categorized as active calorie burn. You're burning calories while you're on the treadmill, but as soon as you step off the treadmill, you're no longer burning calories. Right? You have to keep doing it. Resistance training builds muscle, and muscle burns calories at rest. Everything burns calories at rest, but it burns more calories at rest than fat. So if we dedicate that time that we're already dedicating to cardio, if we dedicate it to resistance training, we're going to build muscle, and eventually we're going to get to a point where we're burning more calories at rest than we currently are, which costs us no additional time. Now, the sacrifice you'll make is upfront, because generally a cardio session, right, or running on the treadmill for an hour is going to burn more calories than lifting weights for an hour. In general, depends the intensity at which you're lifting the weights, right? But in general, it's a safe assumption. But again, you build the muscle, so long-term it is worth it. Right? So you're just training smarter. You don't need to train more, you're just training smarter. You're just making a change to what you're already doing, or making a change to the time that you're already committing. Number 4, less volume when you're resistance training, more intensity. So you need to cut the high volume stuff. And the high volume stuff, there is validity to it. The surefire way to put on muscle is to just blast volume through a specific group of muscles and through a specific range of motion. Yes, it works, right? It does. But if our goal here is to just lose weight with a busy schedule and reduce our time in the gym and get maximum results, right, with the time we have allotted, this is the sacrifice that you make. You sacrifice the volume, you increase the intensity. Okay, again, it might not be scientifically optimal, but it's also not scientifically optimal that you only have 30 minutes to work out. So with that 30 minutes, let's just make the most of it we can by focusing on the intensity. So you don't need to be doing 4 to 10 sets of 20 plus reps or that, higher volume style that kind of came from CrossFit and things like that. Right? Realistically, just cut it down to 2 to 3 sets of failure, mechanical failure, right? And do 6 to 20 reps in each of those sets. Right? So mechanical failure is just getting to the point where you can no longer move the weight without failing on your form. Right? Now, if you're doing an overhead press and you get to the point where you can't do anymore, literally physically, gun to your head, you could not move the weight, and then you switch and you do a push press and you use your legs, you've gone beyond mechanical failure. Right? But the majority of muscle hypertrophy comes in those last few reps. Right? So prioritize that intensity. And again, 6 to 20 reps is generally the sweet spot. If you do more than 20 reps, you went too light. If you did less than 6 reps, you went too heavy. Now, this is in the context, again, of building muscle. Some powerlifter is going to watch this and be like, I did 1 rep. I didn't go too heavy. But again, we're talking about losing weight and building muscle in this case specifically. So less volume, more intensity. Point number 5, the last point here, is compound movements. Again, there's a lot of guys that are going into the gym and they're pressed for time, but they're doing isolation movements the whole time. It's just working one joint pattern. You need to do compound movements that work multiple joint patterns. That way you're hitting more muscle groups with less exercises. So your standard compound movement patterns are squat, hinge, push, and pull. You can break push and pull into vertical push, vertical pull, horizontal push, horizontal pull. And your exercise examples for that, for a squat, it's a barbell back squat, a front squat, a belt squat. Hinge, it's a deadlift, it's an RDL, it's even a kettlebell swing, right? Vertical push, it's an overhead press. Vertical pull, lat pull down, chin ups, pull ups. Horizontal push, that's your bench press, your incline bench press, push ups. Horizontal pull, your seated rows, your barbell rows, right? These are all compound movement patterns where if you're working through those ranges of motion specifically, the specific exercise that you use is less important in this case. But if you're just working through those ranges of motion, you're working multiple joint patterns, you're working multiple joint groups, which then hits multiple muscle groups, and you get more bang for your buck. Right? And it's especially great for somebody that's pressed on time. So the 5th point is focus on those compound movements when you are resistance training, because again, we're getting more muscles worked, we're hitting more groups with less exercises, which means less time spent. So this is how you can actually lose weight. And these are kind of 5 key points that our clients have implemented to make sure that we're not spending 2 hours a day in the gym or something ridiculous like that in order to just get in shape and be healthier for your family, for your loved ones, for yourself, for God, for your business, whatever it is that you want to do it for, right? So if that's been helpful, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, send it to somebody that could use it. And if you want to work with us specifically or learn more about what that looks like, you can use a link somewhere in the description. I'll have it to book a free fat loss assessment with myself or our team and talk about how we can help you lose anywhere from 10 to 50 pounds and actually keep that off long term. Thanks for watching.